Hey there, today I wanted to talk about rental scams, which are on the rise from both a tenant and landlord perspective. With the summer rental season in full swing, there are about 1.5 million students looking for housing for this upcoming school year, and we're expecting about 500,000 permanent residents to Canada by the end of the year. So I expect this problem to continue and even get worse as there's a big housing shortage right now, as many of you are aware of. So let's talk about some of the scams that potential renters are facing. And this is mostly in the form of fake online listings. So someone who does not own the property or manage the property is falsely advertising it for rent. So some of the telltale signs that this is happening is the pricing is too good to be true. You cannot view the property in person. They're asking for a lot of documentation, deposits, etc., way too early in the process. So these are the big scams we're seeing, but there's also some more elaborate ones where you can actually see them in person, and it's usually someone renting a place from Airbnb or another short-term rental company, and they're actually just setting up open houses, viewings for the time that they're short-term renting the place when they don't in fact own the property or have any authority to list or rent the property. So what can you do to safeguard yourself against this? The first thing you could do is you could look to reliable sites like realtor.ca to check that listing is there if you found it somewhere else. But often landlords don't go the route of realtor.ca, so that's not always foolproof. They use other different websites because they don't want to go through realtors. The other thing is you need to verify the landlord's identities and make sure they are in fact the owner. And some ways you could do this is you got to do some online sleuthing. You can look at the land registry to see if the property address matches with the landlord, and that's helpful too. Another thing is you don't provide any documents, IDs, deposits, etc. so early in the game, and especially without seeing it and without verifying the information I've outlined previously. And finally, one of the best ways to do it is just to work with a realtor. As a tenant, you're not going to be paying out of pocket. The landlord pays the realtor's fees. I've worked with so many different rentals that I'm now accustomed to pick up on red flags and to really verify every bit of information that is presented in these listings and throughout the process. Landlords are also seeing an increase in fraudulent tenant applications. These are usually in the form of fake IDs. They're pretending to be someone they're not. So one way you can check is if you do have a copy of their driver's license, you can Google driver check online and it'll take you to the Government of Ontario's website, and you can enter in the information and make sure that they are in fact who they say they are. And even a bigger problem is just fake documentation, fake credit reports, income verification, employment letters. So you really need to be diligent to verify all of this information. And you could do this through reference checks, not so much personal reference checks, because anyone will kind of put anyone in, they'll vouch for them, they're not going to give them a bad reference. But I think the two biggest ones are former landlords and actually, once again, verifying that they are in fact the landlord of that property, as I mentioned on the tenant side, and then also verifying with the employer and making sure that they are in fact the employer you're speaking with. And finally, once again, working with a realtor, I'm been qualified for several years to go through all their documentation, make sure there's no Photoshop documentation, verifying through other sources, and really becoming an online detective in some ways to make sure that my landlord is protected against fraudulent tenant activity. So keep on the lookout for some of these issues if you are renting or planning to rent to someone, because I think it's going to become a growing problem as we are facing a big housing shortage right now. People are just desperate to get in somewhere, and the scammers are just abundant. So thanks for tuning in. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.